Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, believers and seekers of truth, let me share a message with you tonight. A message that will ignite a fire in your soul and fill your heart with hope. It's a message that has stood the test of time. A message that resonates with each of us in the deep recesses of our spirit. There are times in life when you feel like you're on the edge of something greater, and it seems like every step you take toward your dreams is blocked. You struggle, you fight, you hustle, you give everything, but for some reason, it still doesn't feel like you're moving forward. And then, just when you think you have finally found the right path, you hear a voice deep within your heart saying, "They are not for you." But let me tell you something tonight. When that voice speaks, that's when you need to listen. When God closes one door, He is about to open another that will lead you to a destiny far greater than you could have ever imagined. You see, God's purpose for your life is greater than anything you could plan for yourself. His vision for you is more expansive than any dream you've ever had. And sometimes, the people you want in your life, the doors you want to walk through, the paths you want to take, they are not meant for you. I know, it's hard to hear, it's tough, it stings. We want people to see us, to support us, to walk with us. We want those doors to open wide, those dreams to be realized, and that success to be in our hands. But hear me now. Sometimes the very thing you are praying for is the very thing that could hold you back from God's greater plan for your life. There are moments when we ask, "Why, God?" We ask because our vision is limited. We ask because we can't see beyond today. But God, in His infinite wisdom, knows exactly where He is leading you. He sees the things you can't see. He sees the obstacles you can't yet understand. And He sees the people who will either help you soar or weigh you down. When that voice says, "They are not for you," it's because God is protecting you. It's because He knows that if you stay in that relationship, that job, that friendship, that business venture, you will not grow into the person He has destined you to be. And let me tell you, there's no better place to be than in the center of God's will for your life. Oh, but we fight it, don't we? We fight it because we are human. We fight it because we want to hold on to what we know. We resist the unknown, even when it holds our greatest breakthroughs. But hear this now. If God is saying no to something, it's because He is about to say yes to something far greater. Look back for a moment in your life. Can you see the times when God closed the door? You were upset. You felt rejected. You felt confused. But then, after some time, you began to understand. You began to see that that closed door was a blessing in disguise. It was God's protection. It was God's redirection. And though you didn't understand it then, you see now that it was part of His perfect plan for you. God is never wrong. He is never confused. He is never uncertain. And He is certainly never too late. His timing is perfect. His will is perfect. And if He is saying, "They are not for you," then you must trust that He is leading you towards something greater. Trust that. Trust in His wisdom. I know you might be thinking, "But I love them. I need them. I can't do this without them." But listen to me. When you let go of what God says is not for you, you are making room for what He has for you. And let me tell you, what God has for you is far greater than anything you could ever cling to. That job, that person, that dream. If God says it's not for you, it's because He's saving you for something bigger, something better, something more aligned with your purpose, your calling, your destiny. When you let go of the wrong people, the wrong situations, the wrong opportunities, then you create space for the right ones to come in. You create space for those who will uplift you, inspire you, and walk with you as you pursue God's calling on your life. You create space for new doors to open, doors that lead to greatness, doors that lead to a future full of joy, fulfillment, and purpose, doors that will connect you to people who will stand by you, who will cheer for you, and who will build you up when you are weak. But you have to let go first. You have to trust. You have to believe. God is not in the business of holding you back. He is in the business of taking you forward. His plans are always for your good. And if he says they are not for you, then you must trust that he is leading you toward something greater. It's easy to cling to the things and people we know. It's easy to want to hold on to what feels comfortable. But comfort doesn't create greatness. Faith does. Trusting in God's plan, even when it's hard to understand, will bring you the peace that passes all understanding. Trusting in God's timing will bring you the joy that lasts beyond your circumstances. Trusting in God's voice when he says they are not for you will lead you to the life you were born to live. God is calling you to rise above the distractions. He is calling you to let go of what is holding you back. He is calling you to step into the unknown, to step into his promises, to step into your destiny. So I challenge you tonight, when God says they are not for you, listen. Trust in his plan. Let go of what is holding you back and prepare your heart for the great things he is about to bring into your life. You are on the verge of something magnificent. You are on the brink of a breakthrough. But you must be willing to trust God's redirection, to walk away from what he is closing so that you can walk boldly into what he is opening. If you are in a season of uncertainty, if you are facing closed doors, I want to encourage you today. I want you to hear these words and believe them in your heart. God is not punishing you. He is positioning you. He is preparing you for something far greater than you can even imagine. When God says they are not for you, listen and let him lead you to your purpose. When God says they are not for you, it's a statement that can be difficult to understand, especially when the things or people we desire seem so right in the moment. Our hearts ache with the thought of loss or rejection, but we must learn to trust that his decisions, even when they don't align with our own, are for our ultimate good. The truth is, God's redirection is often a form of divine protection, even if it doesn't make sense at first. In life, we are often driven by our desires, our emotions, and what we think will bring us happiness or fulfillment. We want certain relationships, opportunities, or experiences because they feel like the next logical step in our journey. But sometimes, those desires may not align with the bigger picture God sees for us. We may want someone in our life or something to work out a certain way, but God knows better. He sees what we cannot, understands what we don't, and knows the future that lies ahead. When God says they are not for you, he is not rejecting us, he is protecting us. There are people, situations, and paths that might seem appealing, but they are not aligned with the destiny he has planned for us. We may not always understand why a person or opportunity was taken away, but rest assured, it is part of God's plan to preserve the purpose he has specifically designed for your life. Sometimes we are called to walk away from things, even when they feel like the very things we've been hoping for. But his love for us is so profound that he doesn't want us to get distracted or trapped in situations that will ultimately lead us astray. Think of it this way. How many times have you pursued something or someone only to find out later that it was never meant to be? In hindsight, those closed doors, although painful at the time, have often turned out to be blessings in disguise. When you look back, you may realize that if you had stayed in that relationship, job, or circumstance, it would have kept you from growing, from moving forward, and from becoming the person you were meant to be. God knows what you're capable of, even when you don't see it yourself. He sees your potential, your calling, and the unique path that he has paved for you. There are things that, if allowed to stay in your life, could keep you from reaching that full potential. Sometimes it takes the wisdom of God to understand that what we think we need is not really what will help us. His decisions, although they may feel difficult in the moment, are ultimately the best decisions for us. Moreover, God's protection isn't just about keeping us from harm. It's also about guiding us toward the right people, the right opportunities, and the right circumstances that will align with the greater plan he has for our lives. By trusting in his redirection, We free ourselves from pursuing things that are not meant for us, and instead we open ourselves up to what He is truly calling us to. In those moments of pain, confusion, or disappointment, when it feels like we're losing something precious, we need to remember that God's protection is a form of grace. His redirection might feel like loss, but in reality, it's a step towards something better. So, trust Him. Trust that when God says they are not for you, trust in the process, and know that His decisions are always for your good, even when it doesn't make sense at the moment. In moments of rejection, confusion, or disappointment, it's natural to question why things aren't working out the way we envisioned. We may feel like the doors we've been knocking on are being shut in our faces, leaving us in a state of frustration, wondering why our plans aren't unfolding as we had hoped. But it's in these very moments that we must remember this powerful truth: God's timing is perfect. His plan for human improvement and our spiritual and ego growth, when only we enter it, has been painted by many masters as a perfect plan for our lives. The challenge we often face is that we are limited by our understanding of time. We live in a world where things move quickly, and we are accustomed to instant gratification. We set goals, we make plans, and we work hard to achieve them, expecting the outcome to be swift. Yet God operates on a different timeline, one that is far more intricate and filled with wisdom. His timing is not bound by the constraints of the moment, but rather by the eternal wisdom of a Creator who sees the entire picture. At times it may feel like the doors we've longed to walk through are closing, but we must understand that those closed doors are not signs of failure or rejection. Rather, they are signals that God is redirecting us towards something far more purposeful. While we may feel hurt or disappointed in the short term, it's important to trust that God, in His infinite wisdom, knows exactly when and where we need to be. He understands the precise timing that will allow us to thrive and fulfill our true potential. God's timing is like a masterfully woven tapestry. Each moment, each event, each encounter is placed in just the right order to bring us to the place we are meant to be. If things were to happen according to our own timeline, we might miss key lessons, experiences, or blessings that are vital for our growth and for the fulfillment of His purpose in our lives. What seems like a delay or setback is often part of a much greater plan that is unfolding behind the scenes, where everything works together for our good. Think back on moments in your life where things didn't go according to your plans, yet eventually you saw how those delays or disappointments led you to exactly where you needed to be. Maybe you didn't get that job you desperately wanted, only to later find a position that was a perfect fit for your talents. Perhaps a relationship didn't work out, and in time, you realized it wasn't meant to be, making room for someone more aligned with your values and your purpose. In hindsight, you see that what felt like rejection or loss was actually God's perfect timing at work, preparing you for something even better. There is a divine wisdom in the waiting. Though it may be hard to understand in the moment, we must trust that God is not delaying our dreams or desires to punish us. Instead, He is aligning everything in the universe to bring about the best possible outcome. This can be a difficult lesson, especially when we are anxious or uncertain, but it's crucial to trust that God's timing is always for our benefit. God's perfect timing also means that He will never allow us to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. He knows when we're ready. He knows when we've grown, matured, and are prepared to step into the blessings He has for us. And when we're not ready yet, He lovingly waits with us, guiding us through the waiting period, helping us to grow in patience, faith, and trust. So the next time you face a closed door or a situation doesn't unfold as you had hoped, remember this: God's timing is always perfect. Trust that what feels like a delay is actually a step towards something greater. Trust that His plan is unfolding precisely as it should, and in His time, the right opportunities will present themselves, ones that are tailor-made for you and the purpose He has placed on your life. Have faith that, Though the journey may not always be easy or immediate, God is working all things together for your good, and His perfect timing will bring you to the place you are meant to be. Letting go is one of the hardest things we are called to do in life. It's natural to hold on to things that we've invested our time, energy, and emotions into, whether it's relationships, jobs, or dreams that have been with us for years. But sometimes, what we don't realize is that holding on to what God has closed off can actually hinder our growth and block us from stepping into the blessings He has waiting for us. When we let go of what isn't meant for us, we create space for better things, things that will help us grow, flourish, and align more fully with the purpose God has set for our lives. Think about it. When we cling to something that is no longer serving us, whether it's a toxic relationship, an unfulfilling job, or a dream that doesn't align with our purpose, we're effectively holding on to a version of our lives that's incomplete. It may feel safe, familiar, and comfortable, but it can also be a cage that limits our potential. We may not even realize the emotional and spiritual weight we're carrying by holding on to something that no longer aligns with our destiny. We've all experienced those moments where we don't want to let go. The job we thought would be our dream job, but it doesn't fulfill us. The relationship that once made us feel loved, but now makes us feel drained. The dreams we've chased for so long, only to realize they no longer ignite the passion in us they once did. Letting go in these moments isn't just about saying goodbye to something. It's about making room for something better. God is never asking us to let go of something unless He has something greater waiting for us. And letting go is an act of faith, trusting that His plan is better than our own. When we hold on to things that are no longer meant for us, we are essentially saying, I don't trust that God has something better. But when we release what's in our hands, whether that's a relationship, a job, or even a dream, letting go isn't easy, but it's necessary. We can't move forward in life if we're constantly looking back or clinging to the past. The moment we let go, we open ourselves up to new opportunities, new relationships, and new possibilities. It's like a garden that needs to be cleared of dead plants before new flowers can bloom. Similarly, when we release what's not meant for us, we make room for growth, both in our hearts and in our circumstances. Think about the relationships that God is guiding you away from. Maybe there are people in your life who aren't helping you grow, who are draining your energy, or who are simply not meant to walk with you on the path ahead. It's hard to say goodbye, but sometimes God is calling you to let go so that He can bring people into your life who will help you grow, support your dreams, and encourage you in your faith. These are the people who will help you move forward, not keep you stuck in the past. The same goes for your job or career. Perhaps there's a position you've worked so hard to get, but now it's clear it's not the right fit. It doesn't challenge you, doesn't bring you joy, and doesn't allow you to use your unique gifts. Letting go of that job opens the door for a new opportunity, one that aligns with your calling, one that brings out the best in you, and one that will be a better fit for who you are becoming. And then there are dreams. We all have dreams, some that we've nurtured for years and others that we've added along the way. But sometimes we must face the reality that a dream we've chased is no longer what God wants for us. Letting go of that dream might be difficult, but it's often necessary for us to embrace a new vision, one that's better, more aligned with God's purpose for us, and one that will bring true fulfillment. Letting go isn't a sign of failure. It's a sign of trust. It's an act of faith that says, I trust that what God has for me is better than anything I'm holding on to right now. It's not about abandoning your hopes and desires, but rather allowing God to direct them towards something that will bring you more joy, more purpose, and more impact. When you let go, you open yourself up to new blessings and opportunities that you might not have imagined. You allow God to fill the spaces that have been taken up by things that no longer serve you, and in doing so, you make room for growth, for better relationships, for opportunities that match your true calling, and for the fulfillment of God's greater plan for your life. So, don't be afraid to let go. Don't be afraid to release what's no longer meant for you. Trust that God is making space for something far greater, and that the best is yet to come. In the release, there is growth, and in the growth, there is transformation. Allow yourself to step into the new things God has for you, knowing that when you let go, you are making room for better things to come into your life. It's human nature to resist change. We are creatures of habit, and there is a sense of comfort in the familiar. Whether it's a job, a relationship, a routine, or a way of life, we often find ourselves clinging to what we know, even if it's not serving us in the way we hoped. Change, by its very nature, challenges us. It stirs up fear, uncertainty, and discomfort. Yet if we are ever to experience true greatness, it's not through staying in our comfort zones. It's through stepping out in faith, trusting in God's plan, and embracing the discomfort that leads to growth. When we face the choice between comfort and faith, we're often tempted to choose the path that feels safest. After all, why would anyone want to step into the unknown when they can remain in the familiar? The problem, however, is that greatness does not come from maintaining the status quo. It doesn't come from holding tightly to what we already know. Greatness is born from faith, from trusting that God's plan for our lives is greater than anything we could design for ourselves. It is about letting go of the illusion of control and trusting that His path, though it may lead through unfamiliar territory, is the one that will bring us to a place of peace, joy, and fulfillment far beyond what we could have imagined. Faith is what calls us to step into the unknown. It's what pushes us to believe in something bigger than ourselves. It's what compels us to trust that God's timing and purpose are at work, even when things don't make sense. The world often tells us to rely on our own understanding, to seek comfort and security, to avoid risk. But God calls us to something different. He calls us to trust in Him, even when the way ahead seems unclear, to step out of our comfort zones and into a future that only He can see. God's plan for your life is greater than the comfort you hold on to today. Yes, it may be difficult to walk away from what is familiar. Yes, it may be challenging to take that leap of faith into something new. But here's the truth. The discomfort you feel today is nothing compared to the peace, joy, and fulfillment that will come when you trust God. He has plans to prosper you, to give you a future and a hope, Jeremiah 29:11. And that future is often beyond the boundaries of what you can currently see. When we choose faith over comfort, we are choosing growth over stagnation. Comfort may feel good in the moment, but it will never stretch us. It will never challenge us to become the person God created us to be. Comfort keeps us where we are, but faith pushes us toward what we are destined to become. The journey of faith often takes us through trials and challenges, but it is in those moments of discomfort that we learn the most about ourselves, our purpose, and the strength God has placed within us. The story of Abraham is a perfect example of choosing faith over comfort. When God called him to leave his homeland, to step into a future he couldn't yet see, Abraham had no idea where he was going or what awaited him. But he trusted God. He stepped out in faith, leaving behind the comfort of everything he knew, and in doing so, he became the father of nations, experiencing a life far greater than he could have ever imagined. Had Abraham stayed in the comfort of his old life, he would have never seen the promises God had for him. It was through his faith, through his willingness to step into the unknown, that he received the fulfillment of God's promises. The same is true for us. If we want to experience the fullness of God's plan for our lives, we must be willing to choose faith over comfort. We must be willing to trust that He knows what's best, even when we can't see the path ahead. It's easy to stay where things are familiar. It's easy to resist change because we fear the unknown. But true peace, true joy, and true fulfillment come not from clinging to what we know, but from stepping into the future that God is calling us to. Comfort is temporary, it's fleeting, but faith in God's plan brings lasting peace. It brings fulfillment that transcends the struggles and the unknowns. When we trust in God, we align ourselves with His perfect timing and purpose, and we step into a life that's far beyond our own understanding. That's where true greatness lies, not in staying in what's comfortable, but in having the courage to trust God, to embrace the discomfort, and to follow where He leads. So, the next time you face the choice between comfort and faith, remember that God's plan is always bigger than anything you can imagine. Step out in faith, trust Him, and know that He will lead you to a life filled with peace, joy, and fulfillment that far outweighs any temporary discomfort you may feel along the way. At times, it can be difficult to understand why certain people, opportunities, or dreams seem to slip away from our grasp. It can feel like rejection, failure, or even like we're being held back from something important. But what if I told you that God is actually leading you to something greater? That those things you lost or the people who left weren't stepping stones on your path. They were obstacles that were preventing you from reaching the full destiny God has in store for you. What He has planned for you is far better than anything you could have imagined, and trusting in His plan will open doors to a future filled with blessings beyond measure. When God closes a door, it's not to punish you, but to protect you and position you for something better. In fact, the very things we think we want may not align with the bigger purpose He has designed for our lives. We often get caught up in our own plans, thinking we know what's best for us. But God sees a far broader and more intricate picture than we ever could. He sees the future, He understands the challenges we will face, and He knows exactly what we need to grow and fulfill the purpose He has for us. Think about the times in your life when you faced rejection or a door closed in your face. Perhaps you didn't get that job you worked so hard for, or a relationship ended that you thought was meant to last. In those moments, it's easy to feel discouraged, to wonder why things didn't work out as you expected. The people who leave your life, the opportunities that pass you by, may not be part of the bigger story God is writing for you. Sometimes we cling to relationships or dreams that no longer serve us because we think we need them to feel complete. But God knows what you need, and He knows the people and opportunities that will bring you closer to your destiny. If you hold on to what's not meant for you, you might miss out on the new blessings and experiences He's waiting to bring into your life. It's a hard truth, but there are things and people that God will remove from your life to make room for better ones. It may hurt to let go, but you must trust that what He has in store for you is far greater. You might feel disappointed now, but trust that the waiting, the rejections, and the struggles are simply part of the journey toward the bigger, better things God has prepared for you. The beauty of God's plan is that He doesn't just lead us away from what's harmful, He leads us towards something greater. He opens doors that no one can shut. And when He closes a door, it's because He's preparing us for an opportunity that will align perfectly with His purpose. The job you didn't get might just be God's way of keeping you available for a career path that fits your gifts and calling more perfectly. The relationships that have ended might have been God's way of clearing the space for relationships that will nurture your growth and help you fulfill your destiny. Even the dreams that have faded away might be God's way of redirecting you toward a greater vision for your life. What God has planned for you is so much greater than your current understanding. Sometimes we limit ourselves by what we can see or what we've already experienced. We box in our expectations, thinking we know what will bring us happiness or fulfillment. But God's vision for your life is limitless, and it's filled with potential that exceeds anything you could have hoped for. When you trust in His plan and let go of what's not meant for you, you open yourself up to a future that is far more fulfilling, exciting, and purpose-driven than you could have ever imagined. God is leading you to something greater. It's easy to get discouraged when things don't go the way we expect, but we must trust in His redirection. The people who leave, the doors that close, are simply stepping stones to the greater things that God has prepared for you. Sometimes we have to walk through seasons of uncertainty and pain to step into the fullness of God's blessing. The opportunities that are meant for you will come, and they will come at the right time, in the right way, and with the right people by your side. So if you find yourself facing rejection or loss, remember that God is leading you to something greater. Trust in His plan, even when it feels hard or uncertain. Let go of the things that are not meant for you, and trust that what He has in store will surpass all of your expectations. Your destiny is far greater than anything you could have dreamed up on your own, and God is faithful to lead you there, step by step. Stay faithful, keep trusting, and know that the best is yet to come. Life is filled with moments of uncertainty, and sometimes it feels like the path ahead is obscured by fog, leaving us unsure of where we're going or how we'll get there. We've all been in seasons where the doors we've knocked on stay firmly closed, and the future feels unclear. In those moments, it's easy to become frustrated or discouraged, to wonder if we're on the right path or if we've somehow missed the mark. But here's the truth. Those closed doors are not punishments. They are part of the process, part of the journey that will lead you toward your ultimate purpose. Even in the seasons of uncertainty, God is positioning you for greatness. It's human nature to want answers now. We want to understand why things aren't working out the way we expected. We want to know why opportunities slip through our fingers, or why relationships or dreams seem to fade. But in those moments, it's important to remember that God's plan for your life is bigger than what you can currently see. He is orchestrating everything, even the closed doors, to lead you to the place where you are meant to be. The truth is, the journey to greatness is rarely a straight line. It's often filled with twists and turns, detours, and moments of waiting. But each step, whether it feels like a setback or a breakthrough, is part of God's divine process. He is refining you, shaping you, and preparing you for what He has in store. Every season of uncertainty is a season of growth. It's in these times of waiting and wondering where you are being tested, stretched, and made ready for the blessings that lie ahead. Imagine if every door you tried to walk through opened immediately. What lessons would you learn along the way? What strength would you develop? The truth is, the struggles, the rejections, and the delays are often the very things that prepare us for greatness. It's when we are tested, when things don't go according to our plans, that we discover the strength and resilience that God has placed within us. And those closed doors, they are often the result of God's love and protection, guiding us away from things that might hinder our growth or distract us from the path He has set before us. Even in times of uncertainty, we are called to trust. We are called to keep walking forward in faith, knowing that God is always with us and that He has a purpose for every moment of our lives. Trusting in His timing is not always easy. We may not see it all clearly in the moment, but we can trust that He is leading us exactly where we need to go. It's important to remember that greatness is not something that happens overnight. It's the result of small, consistent steps of faith, even in the face of uncertainty. Every season of waiting, every closed door, is preparing you for the next step forward. Every challenge is refining your character, building your endurance, and deepening your trust in God's provision. So, as you walk through seasons of uncertainty, know that God is positioning you for something greater. Those closed doors are not signs of rejection, they are part of the process. Trust that God is guiding you toward your ultimate purpose, and keep moving forward in faith. Even when you don't understand what's happening, even when it feels like nothing is working out, trust that God is at work behind the scenes, shaping you for the destiny He has planned for you. There comes a time in every life when the weight becomes too heavy, when the road feels too long and the silence too loud. It's in these moments, when you've done all you can, said all you know how to say, and still find yourself empty, that you are called to surrender. to leave it in God's hands. Because he sees what no one else can, the tears you cried in secret, the pain buried deep where no words can reach, the confusion you don't speak about, the weariness behind your smile. God sees it all. Not a single cry escapes his notice. Not a single ache goes unheard. We often want answers right away. We want healing without delay, justice without waiting, peace without the storm. But God's timing is not ours. His ways are higher, deeper, greater than we can ever imagine, and though we may not understand, he calls us to trust, to believe that he is working even in the silence. Sometimes faith is not about doing more. Sometimes faith is about letting go, stepping back, placing it in the hands that shape the universe, the hands that still hold you. Not because you've given up, but because you believe that he can carry what you cannot. Leave it in God's hands, that diagnosis, that broken relationship, that unanswered prayer, that child you're worried about, that job you lost, that secret fear. Leave it there, not because you're weak, but because he is strong. Not because you're defeated, but because he is victorious. God hears your cry, even when your voice is gone. He collects every tear. Not one is wasted. He is near to the broken-hearted, and he binds up their wounds. His love is not distant. It reaches you exactly where you are, even if where you are is in pieces. So today, even if your heart is heavy, even if you don't see a way, take a breath, look up, whisper his name, and trust that the God who sees your pain is already working behind the scenes. He is not ignoring you. He is preparing something far greater than you expect. Wait on him, trust in him, rest in him, leave it all in his hands. You are not alone, and you are not forgotten. God sees, God hears, and he will answer in his time, in his way, and always for your good. In the journey of life, there are moments when we feel overwhelmed by our pain, as though we are carrying a burden too heavy to bear. These moments can often feel isolating, as if no one truly understands the depth of our struggles. It's easy to feel invisible in the midst of our pain. God sees everything you're going through, even when others don't. He sees the sleepless nights, the quiet tears that no one else witnesses, and the weight of burdens you carry in silence. We live in a world where pain is often hidden behind a smile, masked by the busyness of life, and buried beneath the facade of strength. It's easy to feel that no one notices your struggle, especially when you put on a brave face for others. But God sees beyond the surface, beyond the external appearances that we so often use to hide our vulnerability. In the quiet moments, when you feel as though no one else understands, remember that God is there. He is not distant or detached from your pain. He is not simply aware of your circumstances, but he intimately knows the pain you are experiencing. Every tear that falls, every ache in your heart, every moment of doubt, God sees it all. Even when you feel abandoned or forgotten, God is there, looking at you with compassion, love, and understanding. You may feel alone, but you are never truly alone. He is always present, always by your side. God's ability to see and understand your pain goes far beyond what any human could comprehend. He is not bound by time or space, nor is he limited by our human limitations. His perspective is eternal, and his understanding is perfect. He doesn't just see your pain in passing. He sees it with a depth of understanding that no one else can offer. He knows the root of your suffering, the circumstances that led to your pain, and the emotions you're grappling with. Unlike others who may judge or misunderstand you, God fully grasps the magnitude of what you're experiencing. In the Bible, we are reminded that God is not a distant observer of our lives. In Psalm 56:8, the psalmist declares, "You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book." God sees the unseen pain, the hurt that others may never know about, and he treasures those moments. Every tear is precious to him, because you are precious to him. There are times when our pain seems too great to endure, when the weight of our circumstances feels unbearable. During such times, we may question whether anyone truly sees what we are going through, but God is not unaware of your suffering. He does not stand idly by as you struggle. He is a God who empathizes with us, a God who walked the earth in human form and experienced the pain of this world. In Jesus Christ, we see a Savior who not only witnessed human suffering, but also took it upon himself, carrying our pain, grief, and sorrow to the cross. He understands what it means to suffer, and because of that, he is able to provide comfort and peace in the midst of our struggles. When we think no one sees us, God is there, offering his presence as a source of comfort. When we are overwhelmed by the weight of our pain, he provides his strength. And when we feel as though no one understands, we may not always see the purpose in our pain, and at times we may not understand why we are experiencing such hardships. But even in our confusion, God sees the bigger picture. He knows the story he is writing in our lives, and he is always working for our good, even when we can't see the path ahead. Sometimes it's in our moments of pain that God does his most profound work in us, refining our character, drawing us closer to him, and deepening our faith. It's essential to remember that God does not just see our pain and leave us in it. He is a God of redemption. He does not waste our suffering. He uses our pain to mold us, to shape us, and to bring about a deeper trust in him. Though our circumstances may feel overwhelming, God promises that he will never leave us nor forsake us. He is actively working to bring healing, restoration, and comfort to our wounded hearts. When you're struggling, don't believe the lie that you are alone or forgotten. God sees you. He knows your heart. He understands your pain better than anyone ever could. In those moments when you feel invisible, remember that you are seen by the one who created you, the one who loves you unconditionally, and the one who will never leave your side. So, if you're going through a difficult season, take comfort in knowing that God sees your pain. You are not invisible to him. Even when no one else seems to notice, he does. He sees the depths of your heart and knows your struggles intimately. And in his perfect timing, he will bring healing, peace, and comfort. Trust in his presence and his ability to turn your pain into something beautiful. You are never alone. God is always with you, seeing, understanding, and walking with you through every trial you face. In the depths of our pain, in the midst of our heartache, there are moments when we feel completely lost, as though no one hears us. The world around us can be loud, and yet our inner cries for help often go unnoticed by those closest to us. At times, it may seem as though our struggles, our fears, our tears, and our silent prayers fall on deaf ears. But there is one truth that we must always hold on to in such moments. God hears your cry. Every cry, every prayer, even the ones whispered so quietly in the silence of your heart, are heard by God. You might not always see or feel it, but God is always listening. Even when you feel as though no one understands or cares, God is paying attention. He is attentive to your deepest needs, even when it feels like the world is too busy to stop and notice your pain. Our God is not distant or disconnected from our suffering. He is near, always listening, always ready to respond. In fact, he is closer than we realize, hearing every word, every plea, and every sigh that escapes our hearts. There is an incredible comfort in knowing that, no matter where we are or what we are facing, God hears us. Whether you speak your cries aloud or keep them locked away in your heart, God hears them all. You don't have to put on a facade or pretend everything is fine. You don't have to hold back your true emotions or mask your hurt with a smile. God knows the deepest parts of your soul, the parts that no one else can see. He understands the pain you carry, the worries that consume your thoughts, and the questions that linger in your mind. And even when you feel too broken to speak, he hears the unspoken cries, the words that remain unsaid but are felt so deeply within. In the Bible, we see many examples of God hearing the cries of his people. In Exodus 3:7, God says to Moses, "I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I am concerned about their suffering. God's response to the cries of the Israelites in Egypt shows us that he listens to his people, even in their darkest moments. He does not ignore their suffering, but is moved by it. This same God, who heard the cries of his people thousands of years ago, still hears the cries of his children today. But God's listening goes beyond simply hearing words. When God hears our cries, he does so with a deep understanding and empathy. His ears are not closed to our pain, and he is not indifferent to our suffering. Unlike people who may become distracted, impatient, or unable to understand the depth of our struggles, God is always fully present and fully aware of what we are going through. He listens with compassion, with a heart that is deeply moved by our pain. When we cry out, we are not met with silence, but with the presence of a loving Father who cares deeply for his children. In the Psalms, David often speaks about the ways God hears and responds to the cries of his people. Psalm 34:17 tells us, "The righteous cry out, and the Lord hears them. He delivers them from all their troubles." This promise is a reminder that when we cry out to God, he hears us and will deliver us. This doesn't mean that every problem will instantly disappear, but it does mean that God is at work in our lives, working to bring healing, comfort, and restoration, even in the midst of our trials. The cry of our hearts doesn't need to be eloquent or filled with perfect words. Sometimes we are so overwhelmed that we don't even know how to pray or what to say. Our cries may come in the form of deep groans or the silent surrender of our hearts. And yet, even in these moments, this verse reveals the incredible truth that even when we are at a loss for words, the Holy Spirit intercedes on our behalf. Our deepest unspoken cries are communicated to God, and he responds with love and grace. God's ability to hear and understand our cries is rooted in his intimate knowledge of us. He knows us better than anyone else ever could. He knows our fears, our desires, our weaknesses, and our hopes. When we cry out to him, we are not speaking to a distant God who doesn't understand. We are speaking to a Father who knows our hearts. His listening is not mechanical or detached, but personal and relational. He hears us because he loves us deeply, and his love compels him to act on our behalf. There are times when we may feel that God is silent or distant, especially when our prayers seem unanswered or our cries go on for what feels like forever. It's easy to believe that God has turned a deaf ear to us, but we must remember that God's silence is not the same as his absence. In those moments, it is important to trust in his timing and his perfect plan. Just because we don't see immediate results doesn't mean God is not listening. He's always at work, even when we cannot see it. The cry of the heart that God hears is a cry of faith. It is a cry that believes in God's goodness, in his power, and in his faithfulness to deliver. Even when we don't understand why we are going through what we are, we cry out with the confidence that God is listening and that he will respond in his perfect way and time. And sometimes it's in our deepest moments of pain that God's presence becomes most real as we experience his comfort and peace in ways we never expected. So, if you find yourself in a place of pain, of confusion, or of desperation, remember this. God hears your cry, whether it's loud or whispered. He is listening. He is not indifferent to your struggles, nor is he far from you. He is near, and he is moved by your heart. Your cries are not in vain. God hears, and he will respond in his perfect love, working all things for your good, even in the midst of your pain. In life, we often find ourselves caught between the tension of waiting for something we desperately desire and the reality of God's timing. It's natural to want things to happen on our terms, to see the answers to our prayers unfold immediately, and to understand why certain things are happening or not happening at a particular moment. We may feel impatient when things aren't progressing as quickly as we want them to, or when we can't see the outcomes we've hoped for. It's in these moments that we are called to trust in God's timing, a timing that, though it may not align with our own desires or expectations, is perfect in every way. God's timing is perfect, even when it doesn't make sense to us. We may find ourselves in seasons of waiting, where things seem to be stagnant, where our prayers feel unanswered, and where we can't see the progress we're hoping for. It's easy to become frustrated, to feel like we've been forgotten, or to doubt if God truly hears our cries. But it's in these moments especially that we need to lean into trust. We need to remind ourselves that God's timing is not bound by our human understanding of time. He sees the beginning from the end, and He knows exactly when the right moment is for things to happen. We may want things to move quickly, especially when we're in difficult situations. We often wish that God would act immediately, that He would solve our problems in the way we envision. But God sees what we cannot. He sees the bigger picture. While we may be focused on our immediate needs or desires, God is working on something far greater than we can comprehend. Trusting in God's timing means believing that His plan for our lives is far greater than anything we could possibly imagine, even when we don't see immediate results. It's about recognizing that the delays, the waiting periods, and the unanswered prayers aren't signs of God's neglect, but rather signs of His wisdom in orchestrating everything in our lives with perfect precision. When we trust in God's timing, we are surrendering our need for control. As human beings, it's natural to want to take matters into our own hands, to force things to happen, or to push for outcomes that we believe are best. However, trusting God's timing requires a shift in perspective, where we recognize that He is in control and that He knows what is best for us. Proverbs 3:5-6 tells us, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight." This verse serves as a reminder that when we surrender our own timelines and expectations, we can trust that God will lead us in the right direction, even if it's not the direction we initially envisioned. God's timing often looks different from our own. We may pray for something today and hope for an answer tomorrow, but that's not always how it works. God's plan is often far bigger and more intricate than our own understanding can grasp. For example, consider the story of Abraham in the Bible. God made a promise to Abraham that he would become the father of many nations, but it wasn't until he was well into his old age, after years of waiting, that the promise was fulfilled with the birth of Isaac. During the waiting period, Abraham and his wife Sarah tried to take matters into their own hands, but their actions only led to complications. It wasn't until they surrendered their own plans and trusted in God's perfect timing that the promise was realized. The waiting was difficult, but God's timing was perfect. Similarly, the story of Joseph in the Old Testament shows how God's timing was at work in his life. Joseph was sold into slavery by his brothers, falsely accused and imprisoned. Yet in all of his suffering, he trusted that God had a purpose for his life, even though he couldn't see it at the time. Years later, when Joseph was elevated to a position of power in Egypt, he was able to see how God had orchestrated every moment of his life to bring him to that point, not only to save his own family, but to fulfill a larger plan. Joseph's story is a beautiful reminder that even when we can't see the end result, God is always working in ways that we may not understand. Trusting in God's timing doesn't mean that we won't face hardships or that we won't experience moments of doubt and frustration. It doesn't mean that we won't question why things aren't happening the way we want them to. It's normal to feel impatient or discouraged when we don't see the answers we're hoping for. But what it does mean is that we choose to trust that God is faithful and that He is working everything for our good, even when we don't understand. In Romans 8:28, we are reminded, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." This verse offers us a comforting assurance that no matter what, God's timing is always for our benefit, even if it doesn't match our own timeline. You may also face situations where the waiting feels prolonged and we begin to lose hope. In these times, it's important to remember that God's timing is not only perfect, but purposeful. Every delay, every period of waiting is part of His plan to shape us and refine us for the next season of life. The waiting is not wasted. It is a time of growth, development, and deeper dependence on God. It's in these moments that we can learn to trust God more fully and surrender our own need for control. God's timing teaches us patience, trust, and hope. While it's difficult to wait, we can rest in the knowledge that God is never late and never early. He is always right on time. Trusting in His timing allows us to surrender our own plans and trust that His plan is perfect, even when we don't understand it. It helps us to let go of our own expectations and to embrace the reality that God is in control and that His plans for us are always good. As you go through seasons of waiting, remember that God's timing is perfect. Trust that He knows exactly what you need, exactly when you need it. Even when you don't see immediate results or understand the reasons for the delay, hold on to the truth that His plan for your life is greater than anything you could ever imagine. Trust that He is working behind the scenes, orchestrating every detail of your life with love, purpose, and precision. And in the waiting, allow your trust in Him to grow, knowing that His timing will always lead you to where you need to be. There are moments in life when the weight of our worries and fears becomes overwhelming, and no matter how hard we try to hold it all together, we just can't seem to manage. It can feel like we're carrying an impossible burden, one that doesn't lighten no matter how much we strain. In such times, the most powerful thing we can do is to let go and surrender. Letting go isn't about giving up or admitting defeat. It's about trusting that God is fully capable of carrying what we cannot. It's a decision to release control and place our burdens in His hands, knowing that He is both willing and able to take on the weight that we were never meant to bear on our own. The idea of letting go and surrendering our worries to God can be daunting. We live in a world that encourages self-reliance and the belief that we must always be in control. We are often taught that we should have all the answers, that we should fix our own problems, and that showing vulnerability or weakness is something to avoid. However, this mindset can leave us feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, and spiritually drained. When we are constantly trying to manage every detail of our lives, we can lose sight of the fact that we are not meant to carry everything by ourselves. Letting go means recognizing our limitations and acknowledging that we cannot do everything in our own strength. It is an act of humility, a surrendering of our will to God's, and an acknowledgement that we need His help. Psalm 55:22 says, "Cast your cares on the Lord, and He will sustain you. He will never let the righteous be shaken." This verse provides us with an invitation to release our anxieties and place them in God's hands. It's not a suggestion, but a promise. When we trust God with our burdens, He will sustain us. He will hold us up even when we feel like we're falling apart. To let go is to recognize that God is far more capable of handling our problems than we are. Sometimes we might hold on to our worries because we think we can fix things ourselves. We might believe that if we just work a little harder, push a little further, or plan a little more carefully, we can somehow make everything right. However, the truth is that we are not always in control, and the things we worry about are often far beyond our ability to fix. That's where God comes in. God has the power to move mountains, to open doors that seem closed, and to heal what we think is beyond repair. When we let go, we are essentially saying, "God, I trust that you can do what I cannot. I trust that your plans are greater than mine." Letting go also involves surrendering our need for certainty. We often hold on tightly to our worries because we want to know the outcome. We want to control what happens next. We desire security and clarity, and the fear of the unknown can paralyze us. But God calls us to step out in faith, even when we don't have all the answers. Hebrews 11:1 tells us that faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. Faith involves letting go of our desire for complete control and trusting that God knows what is best for us. It's a trust that goes beyond understanding the path ahead and believing that God's plan will unfold in due time, even when we can't see the road ahead clearly. There's a profound freedom that comes from letting go. When we try to control everything, we end up weighed down with stress and anxiety, constantly worrying about things beyond our grasp. But when we surrender to God, we free ourselves from the burden of needing to have all the answers or fix every problem. We can rest in the knowledge that God is sovereign over our lives and that His plan is always good, even when it doesn't align with our own desires or expectations. Letting go doesn't mean we abandon responsibility or stop caring. Rather, it means releasing the anxiety and fear that hold us captive and trusting that God will lead us through. It's important to understand that letting go isn't a one-time event. It's a daily choice. Each day we are faced with new challenges, new fears, and new worries. Every day we must choose to release our concerns to God. This might mean letting go of past regrets, forgiving ourselves or others, or simply trusting that God is at work in the present moment. The act of surrender is ongoing. In Matthew 11:28-30, Jesus invites us to surrender our burdens to Him, saying, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." This invitation is a reminder that we don't have to carry our burdens alone. Jesus offers us rest, peace, and comfort. When we let go and allow Him to take our burdens, we experience a relief that comes from trusting in His strength rather than our own. Surrendering to God doesn't mean that we stop taking action or that we don't care about the outcomes. It means that we trust God with the results. It's a shift from trying to control everything to a posture of openness and faith. It's knowing that no matter what happens, God is in control and that He is working all things for our good. Letting go is also about trusting that God's timing is perfect, even when it doesn't align with our own. It's about having the confidence to say, "God, I don't have all the answers, but I trust you with what's ahead." This process of letting go can be difficult, especially when we feel like we've tried everything and nothing seems to work. But surrendering to God is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of strength. It takes courage to acknowledge that we don't have control. Letting go and surrendering to God is a process that brings peace, freedom, and trust. When we release the weight of our burdens and place them in His capable hands, we find rest for our souls. It's a decision to let go of the things we cannot control and to trust that God, who is good, loving, and powerful, is more than capable of handling whatever comes our way. In doing so, we find that God is not only able to carry our burdens, but He also transforms us in the process, deepening our faith and drawing us closer to His heart. God's love for you is a constant, unwavering presence in your life, no matter where you find yourself or how broken you feel. There are times in life when we experience deep pain, disappointment, and loss, and in those moments it can feel as though the weight of the world is crushing us. It may seem like God is distant or that He has forgotten us in the midst of our suffering. However, the truth is that God's love is always present, always close, and never fading, even when we are struggling to see it. No matter how lost, hurt, or broken we may feel, His love remains a constant source of healing and restoration. When we go through difficult times, it's easy to get caught up in the circumstances and feel like we are alone. The world may tell us that love is conditional, that it is earned through performance or behavior, but God's love is nothing like that. It is not dependent on our actions, our successes, or our failures. God's love is unconditional and ever-present. The Bible tells us in Romans 8:38-39, "For I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord." This passage reminds us that no matter what we go through, nothing can separate us from God's love. It doesn't matter if we are experiencing joy or heartbreak. There are times when we may feel like we've been forgotten, especially when we are in the midst of a trial. It may seem like God is silent, that He isn't responding to our prayers, or that He isn't present in our pain. But in these moments, it is essential to hold on to the truth that God is close to the brokenhearted. Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." Even when we cannot feel His presence, God is near. His love doesn't vanish when we are struggling or hurting. Instead, He is right there with us, offering comfort, peace, and healing. One of the most powerful aspects of God's love is that it is always available, even when we feel undeserving. It is easy to believe that God's love is only for those who are good enough or who have it all together. But that's not how God's love works. It is for everyone, especially for those who are broken, lost, or in pain. God does not wait for us to become perfect before He loves us. He loves us in the midst of our brokenness. When we feel most unworthy, God's love is there, waiting to heal and restore. In 2 Corinthians 12:9, Paul speaks of a time when he struggled with a deep pain and prayed for it to be removed. But God's response to him was, "But He said to me, 'My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness.'" This reminds us that God's love is most evident in our weakness and brokenness, and it is through His love that we are made whole. When we experience deep sorrow, it can be difficult to understand how God can still love us in such a broken state. However, God's love is not limited by our circumstances or by our human understanding. His love is not dependent on our perfection or on how well we perform for Him. Instead, His love is constant and eternal, and it is poured out freely even in our most difficult moments. God's love is not a distant, impersonal force, but a deeply intimate, personal affection that reaches into the depths of our pain. When we are struggling, it is in those moments that God's love can shine the brightest, offering us the healing and peace that we cannot find anywhere else. God's love is also restorative. It is not only present in our pain, but actively working to restore us, to heal the wounds of our hearts and to bring us back to wholeness. In Isaiah 61:3, God promises that He will provide for those who grieve, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. This passage is a beautiful illustration of how God's love works to heal and restore us. It is a love that takes the brokenness of our lives and transforms it into something beautiful. When we surrender our pain to God, He replaces our mourning with joy, our sorrow with peace, and our despair with hope. One of the most profound aspects of God's love is its consistency. Unlike human love, which can sometimes be fickle or conditional, God's love remains steadfast, never changing. Even when we struggle to understand His ways, even when we feel far from Him, His love is always there, waiting for us to return to Him. The story of the prodigal son in Luke 15:11 through 32 is a perfect illustration of this kind of love. In the parable, the son squanders his inheritance and lives a life of indulgence, only to find himself destitute and broken. Yet when he returns to his father, the father welcomes him with open arms, demonstrating that His love never wavered, even during the son's time of rebellion. Similarly, God's love for us does not change based on our actions. No matter how far we may stray, God's love remains constant, always drawing us back to Him. There are times when it may seem like we are too broken, too far gone, or too lost for God to love us. We may feel like our mistakes have disqualified us, or that our wounds are too deep to heal. But God's love is not limited by our past, our mistakes, or our scars. In fact, it is often through our brokenness that God's love shines the brightest. God sees us not as we are in our brokenness, but as who we are becoming in His love. His love is transformative, always working to heal and restore what has been damaged. No matter how far we may feel from Him, He is always near, ready to bring us back to wholeness. When we feel lost or broken, it's easy to question God's love and wonder where He is in our pain. But the truth is, God's love is ever present, always available, and never fading. He is close to the brokenhearted, ready to heal, restore, and make us whole. There is nothing in this world that can separate us from the love of God. His love is unconditional, eternal, and constant, and it is in His love that we find our deepest healing and restoration. So no matter how broken you may feel, no matter how far you think you have fallen, God's love remains, always ready to lift you up, to heal your wounds, and to bring you back into His embrace. In the midst of life's pain and confusion, finding peace can seem like an impossible task. It's natural to feel overwhelmed when faced with uncertainty, fear, or sorrow. Our minds race with worry, and our hearts are weighed down by anxiety. During these moments, the world often offers fleeting solutions that fail to bring true peace. But in the midst of all the chaos, there is a promise that we can hold on to, the peace that comes from resting in God's promises. His peace is not based on our circumstances, nor is it temporary or fragile. It is a deep, unshakable peace that transcends understanding, available to us when we choose to trust in His Word and surrender our worries to Him. Resting in God's peace begins with trusting His promises, even when our circumstances seem overwhelming. Life doesn't always unfold the way we expect or desire, and there will be times when we don't understand why certain things are happening. We may question why pain and hardship enter our lives, why God allows suffering, or why things seem to be falling apart. During these times, it is easy to become consumed by fear, confusion, and doubt. But in those very moments, God invites us to find peace in His promises. He promises that He will provide for us, that He will comfort us, and that He will work all things together for our good. When life feels uncertain, God's provision is a constant source of comfort. Philippians 4:19 assures us, "And my God will meet all your needs according to the riches of His glory in Christ Jesus." No matter what we face, God promises to meet our needs. This promise is not limited to material provision, but also includes emotional, mental, and spiritual support. When we are feeling lost, overwhelmed, or uncertain, God's provision is there, offering comfort and the strength we need to endure. His provision may not always come in the way we expect, but it will always be enough. Resting in His peace means trusting that He will take care of us in His perfect timing, even when we don't see how it will happen. Another promise we can hold on to when seeking peace in times of pain and confusion is God's comfort. In 2 Corinthians 1-4, we are reminded that God is the Father of compassion and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. No matter what we face, God is present with us in our pain. He does not leave us to suffer alone. Instead, He offers us His comfort, providing the peace we need to carry on. This comfort is not simply an absence of pain or sorrow, but a deep, abiding peace that comes from knowing that we are not alone in our struggles. Resting in God's peace means acknowledging that even in our darkest moments, He is with us, offering His love, compassion, and comfort. It can be difficult to understand how God works in our lives, especially when we are in the midst of turmoil or pain. When things don't make sense, it can feel like God is distant or silent. But even when we don't understand how God is working, we can trust that He is always at work behind the scenes, orchestrating things for our good. Romans 8:28 gives us this assurance, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." God is always working in our lives, even when we don't see the immediate results. His plan is far greater than our own understanding. One of the most comforting aspects of resting in God's peace is the knowledge that His peace does not depend on our circumstances. The world offers a kind of peace that is often based on external factors. When things are going well, when our relationships are stable, when our finances are secure, when we have no problems, then we can experience peace. But this peace is fleeting and unstable. God's peace, on the other hand, is not dependent on our circumstances. It is a peace that transcends understanding, a peace that is available to us even in the midst of storms. In John 14:27, Jesus offers us this promise, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." This peace is not like the peace the world offers. It is a deep, unshakable peace that comes from knowing that God is in control, that He is with us, and that He has a purpose for our lives, even when we can't see it clearly. Resting in God's peace also requires surrendering our fears, anxieties, and worries into His hands. It can be tempting to try to control our circumstances, to manage our pain, or to fix everything on our own. But the truth is, we cannot carry these burdens alone. When we surrender our worries to God, we allow His peace to take root in our hearts. We stop striving to fix everything and trust that He is in control. This surrender doesn't mean that we stop caring or that we stop taking action in our lives. It simply means that we place our trust in God and let go of the need to control everything. When we surrender our fears to God, we make space for His peace to fill the emptiness that worry once occupied. One of the greatest challenges when seeking peace is the fear of the unknown. We may not know what the future holds, and that uncertainty can bring anxiety and fear. However, resting in God's peace means trusting that He knows the future and He holds it in His hands. Proverbs 3:5-6 reminds us to trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. When we trust God with the unknown, we can experience peace in the midst of uncertainty. We don't need to have all the answers or control over every outcome. All we need to do is trust Him and rely on His promises. In times of pain and confusion, we are often faced with a choice to either be consumed by worry and fear or to rest in the peace that God offers. Resting in God's peace is a decision to trust in His promises, to lean on His provision, to accept His comfort, and to believe that He is always working things together for our good. It is a peace that transcends understanding and is not dependent on our circumstances. When we choose to rest in God's peace, we find the strength to endure, the courage to face the unknown, and the comfort to heal from our pain. It is a peace that sustains us, guides us, and carries us through life's challenges.